Hey everybody, we are back once again. We're going to pick it up here with some topography stuff, and this time we're going to be making our own little hill. Now, making a hill is something we could have done in the last video when we made our original topography with those 4 points. We could have also added a bunch of points and formed a hill here, but I think as a beginner step it's just a little easier maybe to keep it as a separate item. So that's how we're going to do it here. Just to be clear, like contour maps, if I bring this over here, jump back for a second. Typically we see contour maps, we have all these lines that represent different elevations, and I'm not really worried about the numbers at the moment. It's just a different way of viewing things, and these lines in this top area are represented with in real life. That's how this kind of hill is going to look. And when our lines are spaced further apart, we have a much more gradual slope on one side, and then over here where the lines are stacked tight together, it's kind of a steeper slope. This one in the middle is a little bit more of a combo. It's more gradual around, but in the back here it's kind of steep. It's because the lines are tight together. And just seeing that again, here's just another example where they try to help, pull these lines at points of intersection up for every 10 feet of elevation. That's what those contour lines represent. And why all this matters, because when we put the dots in for topography, we're essentially trying to put the dots in where the topography lines will be. And we don't always necessarily have to put them in at every increment here. We're going to we'll define the bottom of our hill and we'll just define the top. And the computer will kind of auto-generate the contour lines in between. But it's still this general concept that we're working with. We want to be able to understand how contour lines work. If the dots are close together, you're going to get a steeper slope. If your dots are further apart, you're going to get a more gradual slope. And that's just how it works. One last example is just here's kind of some typical topography lines you might see, or contour lines for topography, and just maybe what kind of hill or valley they represent. So just kind of a few interesting pictures there. So with that, go back here. We are going to then go back to our massing and site. We're going to click on topo surface. It still should be set to -3'6" because that was the last dot that we placed when we did our 4 corners. And I'm just going to rotate my 3D view into a top view. So I'm looking straight down. Now I also could probably go to the site plan where we made it before, that's fine, but 3D view should work fine here. And we are just going to place points, and we're going to kind of click an oval shape here back behind the house. And you can put in as many dots as you think you need, but something to that effect. And now we are going to, so those dots, because they're all the same elevation, should essentially blend with the topography we already had. Now I'm going to change my dot to 10 feet, which means that's really a 13.5 foot elevation change because we were below 0 before. And I want this hill to be, maybe I'm going to make it more of a sledding hill. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to put my dots a little bit maybe to one side. I could have put them right in the center. But you'll see my contour lines are tighter on one side. That means that's a lot steeper over here. And this is a more gradual slope going out. So I can just envision in the winter climbing up the little bit steeper side and then sledding out the more gradual more gradual side. Yeah. So I can visualize just climbing up one of the more steeper sides and then sledding out the more gradual side. And if I like how that looks so far, which it's fine, and if yours is right in the middle, it's totally okay. Let's hit the green check mark to say, yep, I like my hill. Shift and roller to click this and roll it back. And look at that. We have a hill on our property now. Click off to deselect. Make sure nothing is selected. And we now need to just change it from a big pile of dirt to some more grass again. So I'm going to click once on my hill. Go over here to the material by category, triple dots. And guess what? We already have a material called grass. So I can click OK once it's selected, click off, and there we go. All right, we already had created that new material, so it exists in this project now the rest of the time. So that is nice. So that is how we add hills, or again, if we when in our original topography, we could have also just did this all at one shot and been done. But it works nice to break it up into pieces too. All right. With that, next, I also want to add a little pond on the property, but I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. And there is a way to do it where we could create a valley and we could then do another topography. But sometimes it's just easier to create what's called subregions. So right there on this tool, we're still on massing and site, subregions. And what this does is it breaks up an area into another material. So that way we don't have to do another topography. In the pond, I'm going to make this really simple. We're going to do an oval, or ellipse, fancy word for oval. And this ellipse or oval is going to go more towards the sliding door side of the house. And really you can kind of pick the size and how wide you want it. Maybe you want a circle. Some of that effect is fine. I envision a little deck on the cabin here, and I can look out over the duck pond or something like that, or a close walk to go fish for something. So anyway, I like that. I'm gonna green check mark it, click off. Right now it looks like a sandbox, but if you go to the edge of that carefully, it'll highlight, and we can now change that material again. And let's scroll down and look for water. Oh, there's no water. We're going to go to the circle with the plus symbol, create a new material, right click on default new material and rename it to water. Oops, let's try moving the fingers on the keyboard a little bit. Cap blocks one more time. There we go. Water. It's still highlighted, so I go to the asset library, search for water. Scroll down through, or click. Sometimes you gotta click on these little categories. There we go. We got a few more selections. Ooh, tropical blue looks nice. I'm gonna go with that. A little tropical blue in Wisconsin. That'd be okay. Double click that. That loads it back into the project. You see up above there, so I can close my library. Still updating, which should be okay. I don't see any file error issues or graphic file issues. Graphics, use rendered appearance, and then click OK and click off, and now we have a blue piece of water. And when you render it, that's when that tropical blue actually shows up. Sorry if I didn't say that earlier. So some of those settings, if I go back, click on the edge of that, water, materials, and any material here, even when we're doing walls or whatever it is, appearance. This appearance tab means when you do renderings, and that's dropping into those 3D cameras and then doing a rendering so it starts to look a little bit more photorealistic. With our time frame and our computers, it helps. You have a pretty good idea of how something would look, but they probably don't look quite photorealistic, but they do look pretty good in some cases. Some students have had really good results, and they have looked really nice. But that's what that one tab is all about. Okay, so we got the pond in. And then we need to create a road and a driveway as well. So a few more subregions that'll be. So subregion tool. So the subregion tool. I'm going to go back to a top view. I click on rectangle because the roads are pretty rectangular. And I'm just going to convert this whole edge of the map or edge of the topography to a road. Click off, highlight it, material, click the triple dots, and we're going to see if we have blacktop in here, asphalt, shingle, but I'm not seeing any regular blacktop. Let's read my notes here for a second. Sorry, bear with me. Road material says earth. Concrete. This is a dirt road. That doesn't make sense. Let's make a new one then. So circle, plus symbol, create new material, right click and change, rename, blacktop, enter. While blacktop is highlighted, I go down to that asset library, and blacktop's official name is asphalt. That search, miscellaneous. There's a paving one here, but nothing's showing up, so let me try site work. There we go. And sometimes blacktop can look very dark or it can look gray. Usually that's if it's a little more faded. Let me just double check these other ones, see if anything looks better. No, I think that aggregate high looks as good as anything, so I'm going to double click on that one. Slide that down. Sure enough, it loaded in the background, so I can close the library. I do have a good JPEG. If there's an error message here, I would just click on this and try to find an asphalt in this area and then reload that one, but we're good. Go back to graphics, click use rendered appearance, click OK, click off. 3D rotate, shift and roller, and sure enough, we have green grass, we have pretty blacktop. And the last subregion we're going to create is a driveway. So I'm going to click on top one more time, subregion tool, and this one, if we're just doing a straight, we can do rectangle once again. I'll snap to the edge of that previous subregion, and I want this driveway just to go up along the side of the house. And again, all of this could be very well dimensioned. At the moment, I'm more concerned that you guys just start to understand how to divide up and make property or topography look how you want. Dimensioning stuff is easier later on. So I've defined there's a driveway, so cars come down the road, they can turn in the driveway. Maybe we want that a little wider for 2-car driveway. And finish sketch, click off. We have a dirt driveway, just like I grew up on, but we do live in town, so let's highlight the edge of that topography or that subregion. Let's click in this by category, triple dots, and let's just go with a concrete. Cast in place. That means poured in place concrete. And I don't care if one of these look, we could try appearance. If you think one looks better than the other, go ahead and pick with the best. So I'm going to go with cast in place. Okay. Click off. And I know it's going to look really white in this scenario, but that's just the way it is. The shadeds are not always a great representation. I can click on that. Go back in here, graphics, use rendered appearance. Maybe that'll help a little bit. And it did a little, made a little bit more tan. And that's fine. Yep, so there's our driveway. And we could have added another subregion here, or we could have, if I click here, you can edit boundary. Go back to top view. Maybe I realize, you know what? I need a sidewalk there, so I'm going to make this go out a little bit further. And I'm going to actually drag this out. We can. Line tool. Sorry, sometimes it's been a little while since I've done it too. Zoom in. I don't want to go right up tight to the house, but close. And then back to this purple line there. Now what I'd like to do is trim out this. So the trim tool is a little bit unique in Revit. It's right here, this trim extend tool. You actually want to click on what you want to keep. So in this case, if I visualize it, I'm coming up the driveway and I want to turn to the sidewalk. So I click on this area and this area, and it removes what I don't want. Green check mark. And it says, ooh, something's wrong right there. So it highlights, it's trying to help me out. So I'm going to continue and zoom out and look at that. So I can also use this trim tool, this is just a good coincidence, to extend. So while it's active, I'm going to click on this segment and this one to connect, and they auto connect then. Green check mark. Click off, and there we go. We have nice concrete going around the house, so you can pull the cars in and park here, get out and walk over to the door. All right, once our subregions are in, we have one final finishing touch here to kind of help make the property look, I think, a little more realistic or a little better. and that's plants. Anything from shrubs to trees. So to put those kind of items in, we're going to go back to the Architecture tab and Component. And obviously so far our components are more like cabinets and plumbing fixtures or whatever that happens to be. So we need to go and load a family because we need to get some plants. And I don't recall if I have them in the cabin folder exactly, but for sure you can always go Imperial Library at the very bottom of your list. Imperial Library is the default loaded library on each computer. And we'll scroll down and find planting. Double click that. And it's not a very big selection at the moment. We can find more stuff on Revit City, which I should be able to talk about in class. Coniferous, deciduous, plants, shrubs, trees, and so on. And just pick. You're welcome to play around with a few different ones. I'll try this bottom with deciduous. And we can just start planting. Maybe I want some trees along the back property line. Got a couple of those. Let's load another. Let's try the conifer. Got the pine trees over here. Looks amazing. Let's load a family. Go into a shrub. Just little guys, and we'll put maybe a few along the road here, right? Make that look nice like there. Don't get me wrong, I may want to be in a top view. Just kind of doing this quick to show you. And the planting is totally up to you. There's no real specs on that, but if you did want them to be all perfectly in a straight line, we could even just rotate to the top view itself. It'd probably help a little bit with that. Back to the home view. Let's see how that's looking 3D. Escape a few times. So there, I mean that's kind of the idea. We can get different trees, we can get different plants, and we can do decorating. And by all means, sometimes that's kind of the fun thing too. Sometimes the final touches are the little touches that really complete a project and really start to make it look a little more realistic, I think, and maybe what you envision to what's finally there. Let's see, so that's always shaded. Let's see if my realistic works. Our computers all kind of have a hard time with realistic. Oh, there we go. Not that it looks much different. I was wondering if I would see trees or leaves. And it may not until I actually do a view camera. Let me look down on it. Let's get a camera across the site once. Do a little shift roller. I can twist that view a little bit. Back to the view tab. Render. Just a draft. I want to see how this works. And click render it. The defaults are all, as long as this draft default numbers look, or default information looks fine. I know we haven't done any of these yet, but you're fine just watching this too. Okay, no trees, interesting. Now I'm kind of curious. Re-render, I'll switch to printer and go one more time render. If this takes too long, I'll cancel out of the video, but it should go quick. All right, so a few things we're looking. There's our tropical water, not so tropical. Green grass looks good, brick, but none of the plants are showing up. So something I'll have to look into. That usually works just fine. We'll see. It could be a setting I have off and I'm just forgetting at the moment. As long as they're there, I know we can get them working in the long run. So that's the big thing, okay? Getting those plants, they're just under architecture, component, load a family. Find the kind of plants you want to use and place them around the lot and the building to finish it off.